Once again, Indian financial system comprises of two segments. One is called formal segment, another is called informal segment. Formal segment is more formal segment is regulated segment, and it comprises of institutions. It is a transparent part. Uh, the transaction costs are low, and but the problem is that this segment cannot reach to each and every part in the country. On the contrary, against this, we have the informal system, which is dominated by the landlords, money lenders, indigenous bankers. This segment is considered to be very convenient, segment as far as lending borrowing transactions is concerned. But the problem with this segment is that uh, the lenders find always a potential here to exploit the borrowers by charging heavy or huge interest rates, right? So we will continue from this place because we left actually there, and keep on discussing the remaining part of our topic, remaining part of our discussion in today's lesson, right? Now, what is the formal financial system? Let's take a look on it. Who are the people, or what does it comprise of? Uh, what does it comprise of? Who are the different entities? Who are the different people who actually operate in the formal part of the financial system? So, at the top of this slide, this presentation, you see what is mentioned. Regulators are mentioned, right? So this is the structure of the formal financial system. Earlier you saw the structure of informal financial system. When we looked at the structure of informal financial system, we find nowhere regulators were mentioned. It was only those sahukars, money lenders, indigenous bankers, and then mutual associations between the people. But here you see really something different. At the top of the list of the entities that operate in the formal financial system is the regulator. Now, question arises: who is a regulator? Who is a regulator? The regulator is a watchdog. Regulator is a watchdog who act who who acts. Regulator is some entity. Regulator is an authority that acts as a watchdog to prevent any exploitation and or wrongdoing in the system, because there is always a possibility when there are two parties operating in any kind of system wherein one party has some upper hand, some advantage, and the other party is less privileges, doesn't enjoy the same status. I will give you one example. When you go to a bank, you are a customer, and the other party with which you do transaction is a huge institution which is known as bank. So obviously bank, because of being big in size, because of having large access, will always enjoy some amount of advantage over you as a client. So there will be always a propensity that if the things are not checked, things are not put into control, put into proper manner, then the larger party will tend to exploit the smaller party, right? In order to ensure that there is no exploitation, that the things happen in a wrong way. Other way to understand this phenomena is that you have a match referee. Whenever there is a match, consider a cricket match, there is an umpire. Similarly, if we talk about a football match, you will find a referee. So there is always a possibility when two parties come together and try to do something, there is always a possibility that one of them will do something which will be detrimental to the interest of the other party. So in order to prevent that, there is a need to have the regulator, somebody who overlooks the things and then actually ensures that the rules of the game, rules of the activity are implemented or followed in letter and spirit. So this is the reason we have a regulator in a formal system, whose job is to act as a watchdog and then ensure that no wrongdoing or no exploitation takes place in the system at the hands of the one party, which is going to be detrimental or which is going to be uh, damaging to the interests of the other party. Then there are other intermediaries that operate in the financial system. In the next place in this in the serial number 2, we find financial intermediaries. Financial intermediaries can be anybody like banks, brokers, insurance companies. The job of financial intermediary is actually to step in between the two parties and then ensure a transaction. Suppose if two parties want to do a transaction of lending borrowing, one has surplus money and he wants to give that money as a loan to other party, then they might not identify each other. because of certain reasons. Just imagine somebody wants to buy a piece of land. He cannot do it unless and until he approaches some intermediary, some dalal, and then puts in front of him his requirement. Then dalal will give him lot of options. वो कहेगा फलानी जगह पे जमीन है, इस जगह पे जमीन है, फलानी जगह पे इतनी जमीन है, उसका प्राइस ये है. Same is the case with a financial intermediary. The financial intermediary, however, does not intermediate for the sake of buying selling real estate. Their job is to intermediate for the sake of financial transactions, right? So a bank could be considered treated as a financial intermediary because it takes deposits from somebody and then gives those deposits as a loan to somebody else. So that's how a financial intermediary actually acts, right? So in simple terms, you must remember that a financial intermediary is an institution or an individual who acts in the financial markets. He has a scope to act. He has an opportunity. Who acts in the financial markets for the sake of ensuring or bridging the gap between two different entities who might be looking ahead or interested in doing a financial transaction, right? Then we have financial markets. The financial markets, again, I will repeat, and I had told you yesterday also, they are the heart of the system. Without financial markets, nothing can happen, nothing can operate. We need to have a surface, we need to have a turf, we need to have a place wherein actually all these people can come together and find out opportunities of how they can do a transaction. Now today we no more live in a physical space. Today markets are physical markets have almost disappeared. Today we live in virtual markets. Today we operate in electronic markets. So you must try to analyze, try to differentiate the physical markets and electronic markets. Essentially they are same, they serve the same purpose, but technically their operation is different. Electronic markets are invisible. You cannot see them literally. They can be felt. But physical markets you can visit. You can have a feeling, right? Am I clear? So financial markets are essential to any activity, any economic activity. But the thing is that whether those markets are physical or they are electronic markets. Electronic markets do away with a lot of difficulties that people confront in physical markets. So this is why most of the times electronic markets are preferred. Okay, electronic markets are more economical, right? So when we talk about a financial system, and in that financial system we are discussing financial markets, you must keep it in mind that the markets we talk about or consider are not the physical markets, they are the electronic markets. You see nowadays that banks which use it to operate on a physical turf where people had to go literally to do business, or more and more in a faster pace converging on the electronic space. Okay, so more and more they are encouraging their customers to do transactions on electronic domain, right? Now physical domain is less preferred. Physical domain is still there in banking markets, but more and more they try to just overcome it because they understand the benefits and privileges of doing business in a financial turf on a virtual market, right? So financial markets are very important to the financial system. Without financial markets, it cannot exist, it cannot operate. We will have a separate discussion on understanding financial markets. Probably you will have many discussions on understanding of financial markets. A lot of your syllabus will cover understanding of financial markets. Then in the formal financial system, we have financial instruments. So the products or the commodities or products, you can say the products that are dealt in the financial system, in the financial markets, are not tangible products or not physical commodities. Rather, they are financial instruments, financial claims. How is a financial instrument or a financial claim different from a physical commodity, like your refrigerator, like your car, like a cup of coffee, like an apparel, like a mobile phone? How is financial instrument? Financial instrument is also a product. How is it different, right? So financial instrument, financial claim or a financial product is different from any other product in terms of the fact that a financial instrument actually represents a bunch of future cash flows. So when we are entering or when we are buying a financial instrument, it is actually nothing but a commitment from the other party that he will provide us many cash flows in the future against what we are giving him today, right? Just imagine you are putting your money in a bank account. So what do they give you in future? They return your principal together with the interest. So they are making you actually a commitment of future that they will return your principal amount and they will give you some add-on as well, right? So financial instruments in that sense are different from other products in a manner because they represent, bunch of future commitments or a bunch of future cash flows. So this is what we actually trade for in the financial market whenever we buy a financial instrument or a financial security or any kind of financial asset. So financial instruments are very important when we talk about financial system, because without this is what, financial systems are actually meant for. This is what is being traded there. This is what is the product in the financial systems. That's what people trade for, right? Then we have financial services in the financial, system. Like, we have in other cases, sometimes, apart from having different physical products, we need to have certain services as well, right? Like sometimes we need to go to the doctor, sometimes we need to go for tuitions, sometimes we need to, hire a lawyer, sometimes we need to, take services of people in other, activities. Like our car has suddenly broken down, we need to go to the mechanic and he will set it right. So services are everywhere. Similarly, in the financial system, there is also scope for services, and these services, will range from providing financial advice to, giving facilities like locker or, something else, right? So in the formal system, this slide provides you the entire structure of the formal system in a broader manner. You find, at the top of this system we have regulators who act as watchdog and then ensure that the activities in this segment of the financial system work smoothly, right? Then we have financial intermediaries who actually come together, come closer in this system, and then try to help people, materialize the opportunities, try to help people in, striking out the transactions. Then there are financial markets. Financial market is actually the place wherein all these people operate, and they operate for what? They operate for exchanging of financial instruments and services, right? So this is in short the description of the financial system, formal financial system, right? Let us move on. Now let's see who are the regulators. Regulators हम किसे कहते हैं? These are some of the examples of regulators who operate in the Indian financial market. Like on the top of this list, you see RBI, Reserve Bank of India. Reserve Bank of India is the regulator in the banking industry. Its job is to regulate the functioning or activity of the banking industry. So if anything wrong happens in the banking industry, Reserve Bank of India will be blamed, because they are the people who will supervise the entire, banking system in the country. Then we have Securities and Exchange Board of India, which is also known as SEBI. This is the watchdog of the capital market, stock market, right? So they have to ensure that stock market works smoothly without, one party actually engaging into any activity which is detrimental to the other party, right? So you must have heard about, small investors being exploited, small investors being, robbed in the securities market, share market, capital market. So this regulator, which is known as Securities and Exchange Board of India, is mainly there to protect the investors of small investors, protect the interests of basically investors that invest, that give their hard-earned money into the hands of others in this market, right? Then we have Ministry of Finance. Then there is Ministry of Corporate Affairs. These are also the regulators, but they act concurrently with the Reserve Bank of India or else with the Securities Exchange Board of India. Like, somebody wants to set up a company, he cannot do so unless there is a permission, unless he follows the laws that have been set by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Similarly, if there's a fraud happening in some company, then Ministry of Corporate Affairs comes into the scene. Similarly, we have role for Ministry of Finance. So these are also regulators whose job is to regulate the financial markets or the financial system in the country of India. Then we have Insurance Regulatory Development Authority of India. This is the regulator meant for regulating the insurance sector. Until many years, there was no regulator in the insurance sector. But then insurance sector was dominated, and it was having only the government ownership. Then insurance sector was opened for private participation. Then private companies were also allowed to start or run the insurance business. This is the time when they thought there has to be a need of a regulator, and this regulator was introduced. Then we have Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority of India. Pension fund, has a huge market. Pension has a huge market in India, and there are institutions who sell products that are related to pension. that help people to plan, manage, and invest their pension funds. Again, government of India has thought that there is a need for a regulator. They have introduced a regulator known as Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority of India. These are some of the regulators that operate in the Indian financial system, and the job of each and every one is actually to ensure that the rules which are set by the regulators, by the governments, they are at the ground ensured and followed in letter and spirit by the different stakeholders, right? Then let's take a look on the financial intermediaries. Who are the financial intermediaries? As I already told you, financial intermediaries are the people who step into between, who step in between different parties and then help them to, carry out a financial transaction. These are some of the examples of financial intermediaries. Like on top, you see banking institutions. Then there are non-banking institutions, mutual funds, insurance companies. This is just a list. It is illustrative list. It is not exhaustive. There can be many more, financial industries whose example we can actually quote, right? So insurance companies and housing finance companies. The job of all these institutions, all these intermediaries, is actually to, bridge a gap between, people having surplus money and those others that may be in need of, borrowing money, right? Then we have other intermediaries. These are also the intermediaries, but their job is not to help people carry out financial transactions of lending and borrowing, right? They help people in the financial system in some other ways. Like there are depository participants. There is a depository. First of all, depository is just like a bank, but it does not accept deposits of money from the people. Rather, it accepts deposits of financial securities from the people. So today, financial securities are no more held by the investors in the financial markets in physical format, right? That time has gone. Today, financial securities are held, they are traded by the investors in the financial market in electronic format. So today, there's a concept of e-security. But this e-security, unlike a physical security, cannot be, owned by, cannot be, sorry, it can be owned, cannot be held by the market participant, cannot be held by the investor in his own possession. Since it is in the electronic form, it will always be kept in an institution, which is known as depository, right? Then we have, so depository helps in that sense people in the market to provide them, custodial service of maintaining their securities in the financial format. Then we have stockbrokers and sub-stock brokers. The job of stock brokers is to strike deals of buying and selling of securities, financial securities in the capital market or in the money market, right? Then there are clearing houses and stock exchanges. The job of clearing house is, to clear the securities from the possession of the seller and take them to the possession of the buyer. Suppose there is a person who wants to sell his securities. He might be having them in his possession. And then when he sells them, they have to move from his possession and then go to the possession of the buyer. This is the job which is taken care by the clearing house, right? Then we have stock exchanges. Stock exchanges are actually at the heart of this electronic market. They provide an interface which can be used by the parties for trading, which can be used by the parties for buying and selling of securities, right? Then there are merchant bankers and registrars. Again, this is just the illustrative list. You can have a lot of other, examples of intermediaries, because there's a huge, list of intermediaries that operate in the financial system. In the coming days, you'll have more sense, more understanding about who are these people and what is their role in the financial system, right? Then we mentioned the financial markets. If I repeat it once again, we are discussing the structure of formal financial market. In the formal financial market, if we look once again, we talked about regulators, we talked about financial intermediaries, we also talked about financial markets, financial instruments, and financial services. Now we are taking them one by one in detail. So far, we discussed regulators, we discussed financial intermediaries. Now we'll be discussing financial markets in a little bit detail, but tomorrow we'll have more discussion on this in the coming lectures, right? Then we will also discuss financial instruments and financial services, right? Now, financial markets. In the formal financial segment, in the formal financial system, in the formal segment of the financial system, we have different, the financial market has different segments. Broadly speaking, the financial market can be classified into two segments: capital market and money market. This is the broad classification of the financial market. Capital market is the market which is meant for long term claims, and money market is meant for transacting short term financial instruments. In other words, these markets differ in terms of term of financial claims. So this is the classification of financial markets on the basis of term or tenor of the financial instrument. So if you have a long term instrument, that can be only originated or transacted or traded in the capital market. If however there is a short term instrument, that can be traded transacted only in the money market. What does it mean? It means, in other words, if there is a person who wants to invest money for long term, and he would require for that purpose a party who is willing to take the money for long term as a loan or as an investment, right? That can happen in the capital market. Similarly, if you cannot part your money with longer term, if you have a savings and that savings you want to invest only for short term up to 1 year, then capital market is not the ideal place. Then you have to think about always investing or putting your money into the into the financial instruments that will be available in the money market, right? So primary market. Now then there is further classification. Capital market has again two segments. Similarly, money market also has two segments. These two segments are known as primary market and secondary market. Primary market is for new issues और सेल ऑफ फ्रेश फाइनेंशियल क्लेम्स. नए फाइनेंशियल इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स जो इशू किए जाते हैं या बेचे जाते हैं, उनके लिए प्राइमरी मार्केट है. उनके लिए प्राइमरी मार्केट में लोग जा सकते हैं. बट एग्जिस्टिंग फाइनेंशियल इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स जो हैं, जो पहले ही सेल हुए हैं प्राइमरी मार्केट में, उनको ट्रेड किया जाता है सेकेंडरी मार्केट में. सो दैट इज द डिस्टिंक्शन. दिस इज जस्ट फॉर द सेक ऑफ एन अंडरस्टैंडिंग. I will repeat once again, this is the broad classification of financial market. Capital market, it has two components or two segments: capital market and money market. Capital market is meant for long term claims, and money market is meant for short term claims. In other words, these markets differ in terms of term of the financial claims that are made there. In one market there are longer term financial claims made and sold. In the other market there are shorter term financial claims made and sold, right? Further, each of these markets has two sub segments, two sub markets. One is called primary market and other is called secondary market. Primary market is for new issues or sale of fresh financial claims, and the secondary market is for trading of existing financial claims by the parties or by the investors, right? Then we talk about capital market. Capital market में कौन से instruments जो है issue किए जाते हैं और trade होते हैं. Obviously we already mentioned that capital market is meant for long term financial instruments, right? So in the capital market, equity, debt and derivatives are somebody has switched on the mic, please put it off. किसी का माइक गलती से ऑन हो गया, इसको ऑफ कर दीजिए आप. Okay, so in capital market, these are the financial instruments, or these are the claims that are exchanged or that are made, like equity, share, debt instrument or derivative instrument. Then equity market has two parts, like I discussed already. I told you already, both capital market as well as money market has two sub segments which are known as primary market and secondary market. Primary market, in the primary market, the main activity which is done is public issues or private placements. What does it mean? The companies, if they want to sell their equity or debt for the first time to the general public or to a few people, right? That is what they can do in the primary market. Sale of equity, capital or debt to general public is known as public issue. But the sale of the same equity, capital or debt to a few institutions or few big players is known as private placement, right? So this activity can be done by the corporate entities in the primary market. Who are the intermediaries that help them in conducting or carrying out this activity? These are the main intermediaries, like merchant banks, bankers to the issue. These are the people who help joint stock companies to carry out public issues or private placement in the primary equity market, right? Now, what is the role of secondary market? In secondary market, the public issues or private placements cannot be made. What is then it meant for, right? This is meant for, trading of those claims, trading of those financial securities, trading of those equity shares or debt instruments that were actually purchased or owned in the primary market by the investors, right? So if somebody buys, directly from the company in the primary market, then subsequently he wants to sell it to some other investor. For him, the ideal place in the capital market is secondary market, right? So secondary market will facilitate the trading and settlement of those financial instruments or those financial claims that were or that would have been brought from the प्राइमरी मार्केट, राइट। तो इसके अंदर ये एक्टिविटी होती है। तो इंटरमीडियरीज कौन है? इंटरमीडियरीज इसमें मेनली स्टॉक एक्सचेंज है। इंडिया के अंदर जो स्टॉक एक्सचेंज है उनका नाम नेशनल स्टॉक एक्सचेंज है, बम्बई स्टॉक एक्सचेंज है, ओवर द काउंटर स्टॉक एक्सचेंज ऑफ इंडिया है और रीजनल स्टॉक एक्सचेंज है। तो मेन इंटरमीडियरी इनके अंदर यही है हु फैसिलिटेट ट्रेडिंग इन द stocks or debt instruments between different investors, right? Then we talk about the debt market. Debt market, these are the instruments that are transacted, that are originated and transacted in the debt market. डेट मार्केट में भी दो सेगमेंट्स है, इसके अंदर भी प्राइमरी मार्केट है और सेकेंडरी मार्केट है। प्राइमरी मार्केट में फर्स्ट टाइम claims are originated and transacted. Secondary market is meant for subsequent trade of such claims, right? So these are the instruments, financial instruments that are traded in the debt market, like government dated bills, public sector undertaking or public sector unit or public sector companies bonds, and then we have corporate debt, right? Then we have a derivative market. In derivative market, no funds are actually exchanged, right? Derivative market is a very unique market which you will understand in more detail in the coming lectures. This is a market which is wherein commitments are traded, इसको उर्दू के अंदर वादे का बाजार कहा जाता है, या आप अंग्रेजी में इसको कहोगे प्रॉमिस का मार्केट। इसके अंदर जो है इमीडिएटली कोई कैश पेमेंट नहीं होती है और कोई सिक्योरिटी का ट्रांसफर नहीं होता है, बल्कि इसके अंदर फ्यूचर में जो है सिक्योरिटीज के ट्रांजैक्शन करने के लिए कमिटमेंट्स की जाती हैं। तो हियर इन दिस मार्केट वी हैव टू डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स। वन इज नोन एज अ फ्यूचर्स कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, अनदर इज नोन एज options contract, right? So in the days to come, we will be talking about this segment of the financial market in more detail, okay? So this is called the derivative market, wherein trades for futures and option contracts are done. So very different contracts which are known as futures contract and option contract are done in this market. Now what are these claims? These are the financial claims that involve future consequences. One is that I will go to a shop and I would be interested in buying something, let's say a cup of coffee. I will sit in the restaurant, somebody will deliver me that cup of coffee, I will have that cup of coffee, make the payment and go back home, right? Another is I will go to a goldsmith and then tell him, can you deliver me these kind of ornaments after 3 months? If he agrees, then I will give him a small advance. Then after 3 months, I'll come and take the delivery of those ornaments from such goldsmith. Now, what would be the purpose of doing that? The purpose of doing that is that probably I might be doing this because I might be feeling that the price of gold may go up in the near future. This is, I would go to the market and identify some goldsmith who will be ready to doing with me a forward contract. I'll pay some nominal advance amount, and then after the expiry of some time, I'll take the delivery. So this is how derivative market operates. Here in this market, no immediate transfer or sale of securities are done, but securities are sold in with the future commitments, right? So financial claims are made in this segment, wherein the parties come and agree to transact for financial assets in the future time, right? So these are actually the financial claims that involve future consequences in terms of payment and delivery of assets by the two parties. So that is what is derivative market. We'll have a more detailed discussion on this market in the coming days. A separate session will be on this, right? Then let's take a look on the money market. Money market again has two segments, primary segment and secondary segment. You must differentiate between the two. There is a demarcation line. Primary segment is meant for fresh offers. Secondary segment is meant for subsequent trade of such subsequent trade of securities which are owned in the fresh offers, owned during the fresh offers, right? So this is the list of the financial instruments that belong to the money market. Like you have treasury bill, call money, commercial bills, commercial paper, certificate of deposit. In the coming days, we'll have detailed discussion on understanding of characteristics and how all these instruments are traded in the money market. Then we have other types of financial instruments like mutual funds, exchange traded funds, futures and options on stocks and indices. Then we have non-negotiable bank deposits, post office saving schemes. So these also belong to the these also belong to the financial system. These also belong to the financial markets, right? Then we talk about financial services. तो financial services के अंदर क्या क्या चीजें होती हैं? Banks जो है financial services provide करती हैं. Then we have depositories whose job is to provide services of holding of securities in the electronic format to the investors. इसके अंदर इंडिया में दो डिपॉजिटरीज हैं. एक का नाम है नेशनल सिक्योरिटीज डिपॉजिटरी लिमिटेड, दूसरे का नाम है सेंट्रल सिक्योरिटीज डिपॉजिटरीज लिमिटेड. बोथ ऑफ देम आर पब्लिक सेक्टर एंटिटीज. They are run by the government of India. Their job is to provide the facilities of holding of securities in the electronic format to the people who might be interested in trading and transacting of securities in the capital market, right? Then we have credit rating agencies like CRISIL, like ICRA. Okay, the job of these rating agencies is actually to rate different issues, rate different financial securities, and then provide investors who might be interested in buying or investing in such securities. These rating agencies provide such investors with an independent opinion about the credit worthiness of those or credit quality of those financial securities. Then we have merchant banking firms. Merchant banking firms, their job is mainly to help issuing companies in the capital market to issue capital to the investors, right? Then we have leasing and hire purchase companies, then guaranteeing and insurance, underwriting and brokerage. So all these all of them are intermediaries actually, who provide these financial services to different people, different firms and investors in the capital market. In the coming days, we'll be having more discussion, and your clarity about your understanding about all these financial intermediaries will develop, and it will reach to a more higher level, right? So you just wait and hold your nerves till we have those lectures. We are going through right now through the basic or the introductory session or introductory lesson on the Indian financial system. Then after finishing all this, let's move to the we have just finished the basic understanding of what a financial system is all about. Now let's move to a different area wherein we will try to understand what are those functions. Please switch off the mic. Somebody's mic has got again. किसी का mic फिर से on हो गया. So in this part of the session, we will discuss about what are the function or what is the role that is performed by the financial system, in an economy. So right now we are talking about the Indian financial system. So we will limit our discussion on understanding the role or functions that are performed by the financial system in India. First function. The first function is listed as transferring resources across time and space, right? So what do we argue is that the financial system performs a very important function wherein it facilitates the transfer of financial resources across time and space. Now, as far as transfer of financial resources is concerned, this is something you can easily understand, but you cannot understand what does it mean across time and space, right? So how does financial system facilitate or perform this function of transferring financial resources through or across time and space? A financial system does it by providing these two facilities. ये दो facilities क्या है? How does financial system perform this function of transferring resources across time and space? Okay, so the allocation of resources through time. Let's understand how does financial system allocate financial resources across time, and then also understand how the financial resources are allocated or transferred from one point to another point. That is what means across space, right? So the allocation of resources through time occurs when a financial institution mismatches short-term deposits with a long-term loan. So essentially what happens, financial institutions, let's take the example of a bank. Their job is to collect deposits from different people, and then they pool those deposits. After pooling those deposits, they provide those deposits as a big loan to some business house, right? Now, what do? On one side, they accept saving bank deposits or they accept short-term deposits. But on the other side, a business might be in need of a long-term loan, but they don't hesitate to give a long-term loan to the business. So by doing that, they actually engage into a mismatch, a liquidity mismatch, right? So on the one side, they have liabilities of short-term nature on the balance sheet. but on the other side they create a long-term asset, long-term loan. This could be done only by the financial institutions because they are very proficient in managing the mismatch, or in other words we can say they are very proficient in managing the liquidity risk that arises in the business, right? So when a financial institution accepts short-term deposits having low maturity and makes out of them long-term loans having a higher maturity, this is how they perform the role or function of transferring resources across time. So from one time, zone, they actually move the funds to the other time zone, right? So this is possible only in the financial system. Okay, so in the financial system this job is actually performed by the mature or developed financial institutions, which include the banks and other financial institutions, right? Then we have transferring of resources across space. How does the resources transfer across space? Across space, resource allocation is done by offering remittance services by different financial institutions in the system. Now just imagine you need to pay money to somebody. That you do today by clicking a website on the internet, because you have a bank account. Okay, because bank provides you the internet banking facility. So literally what's happening, your funds, your physical, your currency actually is moving from your ownership to the ownership of somebody else. So that is what it means, the movement or transfer of financial resources through space, right? So you live in Srinagar but you are paying your money to somebody who is in America. You are paying your money somebody who is in Bombay. Okay, that's what means the transfer of resources across space, right? So the first function of which is performed by the financial system, which is called transferring of resources across space of time, across space and time, is explained to you. The second function which is performed by the financial system is management of risk. How does a financial system manage risk? एक financial system जो है वो risk को कैसे manage करता है? Let's take a look on that. Let's try to understand that.
सर सर एक बार फिर से एक टाइम एक्सप्लेन कर देना, इसमें थोड़ा कंफ्यूजन रह गया।
कौन सा टाइम? मतलब ये अक्रॉस टाइम आप कह रहे हो?
अक्रॉस टाइम सर, अक्रॉस टाइम।
Okay, I'll explain, don't worry. You see, just imagine you have a saving, you have a surplus, right? And that surplus you are not interested to spend right now. Okay, this is what we call in finance postponement of consumption, postponement of spending. So you want to postpone your spending to the future time, right? But you have the means, you have got enough purchasing power, you have the funds, you have the savings. Okay, now question arises, how would you manage those savings? Where would you put those savings, right? Yesterday I told you that if you are holding those savings in your cupboard, in your almirah, in your safe, then you might remember that you have to undergo or you have to face the loss in the value of your savings with the passage of time, which is going to happen due to inflation, right? So if you want to protect yourself from the termite of the inflation, from the risk of the inflation, from the loss which is happening due to inflation, then you will obviously think about investing your money somewhere. The simple way is that you place your money in a bank account, right? Am I clear? So you have the funds, you have the savings, but you are not interested in spending them right now, right? So you want to spend them in future time. Now how will you manage your resources across time? How will you ensure that your resources remain intact throughout the time? How will you ensure that the value of resources remains the same today as well as tomorrow? This is the facility, this is the function, or this is the activity which will be performed on your behalf by the banks, by the financial system. But you need to understand that to avail this service, to avail this facility, you have to part with your savings. You should not keep them in your cupboard. Rather, you have to put them somewhere in a bank account or in some case in some category of investment, right? Bank account is the ideal option and the safest option because there is less risk. There is no risk of losing your principal amount. Otherwise, if you put your money in a stock market instrument, there is a risk of losing your principal amount. But you will ask why people still prefer to buy stocks. I will answer that those people might be interested in taking higher risk and earning higher returns. Those people who put their money in bank accounts, they are happy about getting low returns, right? And not taking risk, right? So if you want to manage your resources of savings, if you want to manage your funds across time, you want to ensure that their value remains intact, you have to hand over them to some financial intermediary as a deposit, and then they will return you your funds intact after the expiry of the time you might be agreeing keeping your money there. Am I clear? So this is how actually the funds or financial resources are managed by the financial system across time, right? So banks provide us two facilities. One is that they can accept our deposits. When they accept our deposits, they are providing us the services or the facilities wherein they help us in managing our savings across time, or else when they provide us remittance facilities. Remittance facility can be anything like, buying a demand draft, or, ATM card, or, RTGS or NEFT facility. You would have heard about any, online transfer facility. So all these facilities are nothing but, movement or management of, financial resources through space. Now we have a great difficulty. We want to pay money to our brother who is in great need of money, but he is not here in Kashmir. Rather, he is somewhere in Karnataka. How can that happen? Literally, we have to hand over our money to somebody and courier it, send him there. But the same job is efficiently done by the financial institutions at a very low cost, right? So, am I clear? So, I hope it is clear to you. The first main function which is performed by the financial institutions is that they help people, or the first main function which is performed by the financial system is that they help the people in transferring of financial resources across टाइम एंड स्पेस. पहली वाली जो मैंने एग्जांपल दी थी वो थोड़ी सी एडवांस्ड एग्जांपल थी, जिसके अंदर मैंने ये कहा था कि एक बैंक हमसे शॉर्ट टर्म डिपॉजिट्स लेता है, उन डिपॉजिट्स के बदले में वो दूसरे किसी को लॉन्ग टर्म लोन देता है, तो उसकी वजह से भी जो है फाइनेंशियल रिसोर्सेज को अक्रॉस टाइम मैनेज किया जा सकता है. दिस इज समथिंग विच ओनली फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशंस कैन डू. Nobody else will be in a position to do it. Can we do it as an individual? Answer is no. Right? What do? Literally, they are taking a huge risk, but they know it very well how to manage this risk, and they are actually proficient in managing this risk. That is why they are known as banks and financial institutions. Okay, I hope it's clear to you. Then the second function which is performed by a financial system is management of risk. Managing of risk, right? How does a financial system manage risk? एक फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम जो है वो रिस्क को कैसे मैनेज करता है? This is done by facilitating diversification opportunities. I hope you understand diversification. Diversification in literally sense means not putting all your eggs in the one basket, right? So you have a sum of money. Instead of depositing that money in one bank, you prefer to keep that money in different banks. You diversify the risk. Okay. Suppose if one of the banks fails, still your money with rest of the two banks is safe. Rather than if you would have preferred to put your entire money in a one bank, and then if that bank would have failed, your entire money would have been lost, right? So diversification actually means spreading your investment across different assets, across different opportunities, across different financial instruments. So this is something which is provided by the financial system, right? Because financial system provides a variety of options or variety of instruments wherein we can invest, right? So this is done by facilitating diversification opportunities by providing insurance and futures contract. इसी तरीके से इंश्योरेंस कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, इंश्योरेंस जैसे कि हमें प्योर रिस्क हम फेस कर रहे हैं. प्योर रिस्क का मतलब है कि जो नेचुरल कैलामिटी से होती है, जो फाइनेंशियल मार्केट से नहीं होती है. प्योर रिस्क का मतलब ये है कि जो चोरी की वजह से होती है. समझ में आ रही बात? The risks are classified in two ways: pure risks and financial risks. Financial risks arise because we might have done something in financial markets, but pure risks arise to anybody who would not have done anything in financial markets, right? Pure risk is the risk of floods, the risk of fire, the risk of earthquake, the risk of a natural calamity. इन रिस्क, सारी रिस्क के अगेंस्ट हमें कौन प्रोटेक्ट करता है? इन सारी रिस्क के हमें के अगेंस्ट हमें इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज प्रोटेक्ट करती हैं, राइट? So the hedge or protection against different risks, pure risks that we face, in our daily life is provided again by the financial system, because financial system has a scope to have insurance companies, and insurance companies are proficient in dealing with the risk, in helping people to manage the risk. This they do by offering insurance contracts to the people, and people buy these insurance contracts, and those contracts help them to minimize or mitigate the pure risk which they might be facing in their daily lives, right? So first idea is diversification. Second is providing insurance contracts through the insurance companies. एंड थर्ड इज फ्यूचर्स कॉन्ट्रैक्ट. इसके ऊपर मैं ज्यादा डिस्कशन नहीं करूंगा क्योंकि मैंने आपको बताया कि इसके ऊपर हमारी अलग से डिस्कशन होगी. फ्यूचर्स कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स का पर्पस क्या है? फ्यूचर्स कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स का पर्पस ये है कि दे हेल्प द पीपल टू मैनेज डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ रिस्क्स दैट अराइज टू देम व्हेन दे इन्वेस्ट इन फाइनेंशियल मार्केट्स. देखिए जी, मैंने अभी आपको एग्जांपल दी कि आवर प्रिंसिपल इज सेफ इफ वी पुट दैट इन अ बैंक डिपॉजिट बिकॉज बैंक्स नेवर फेल इन repaying the principal amount. But our principal amount is at risk if we prefer not to put it in a bank deposit, rather we buy a financial security. That time, we need not to worry about, because, apart from providing us the means through which we can take risk in the financial markets also provides us hedging mechanism. Financial markets also provides us insurance, right? That insurance comes to the investors in the form of future contracts. अब ये फ्यूचर कॉन्ट्रैक्ट से कैसे इंश्योरेंस किया जाता है या इससे कैसे रिस्क को हेज किया जाता है, इसके ऊपर हम अलग डिस्कशन करेंगे जिसमें ये समझा जाएगा. Now the third risk which is performed, third function, third important function that is performed by the financial system is clearing and settlement of payments. What does it mean, clearing and settlement function, right? Clearing and settlement of function means that this function is performed through banks and other financial institutions who offer wire transfers, checking accounts, debit and credit card facilities, right? If when we go to the bank, apart from deposit facilities and loan products, they also offer us facilities of wire transfer. Wire transfer means they help in transferring money through wire. They help in transferring of money from one location, one person to the other person by doing something in the electronic wire, right? Similarly, they provide us checking account facilities. What is a checking account facility? A checking account facility is a checking account is an account which gives us a checkbook facility, and a checkbook can be used easily for making payment to others. You know it very well. A check can be written and we can make payment to a third party. So that's also settlement facility, right? Similarly, they provide us debit cards and credit cards. You see, the idea is actually moving money from one location to the other location. And why would one be interested in moving, money from his ownership to the ownership of somebody else? Just imagine you go to the market and you buy something there. Won't you be required to make the payment? Now, answer is that you will have to make a choice whether you will make payment in cash or in electronic format or by writing a check, right? In whatever manner you prefer to make the payment, banks will come forward and help you in clearing and settlement. Where from we get the cash? We get the cash from the banks, right? Similarly, checking facility and debit card and credit card facility, right? So if we write a check or if we use a debit card or a credit card for making the payment, essentially what is happening, our account is getting debited and somebody to whom we might be interested in making a payment, his account gets credited. So this is what is actually known as clearing. So literally what clearing means, it means lifting funds from one's account and dropping them in somebody else's account, right? So when we make a payment from our account by using a debit or credit card, so literally what happens, our account is debited, our account is subtracted, and the account of the beneficiary to whom we might be interested in making a payment is actually credited, or rather it is actually added, right? So that is what is clearing and settlement, right? So clearing means, debiting two different accounts, debiting one account and crediting the other account. Settlement means moving the funds from one, location to the other location, right? So this facility is provided by the financial system, and we can avail and we do avail this facility by going to the banks and seeking wire transfers, checking accounts and credit card facilities. Similarly, we have depositories and stock clearing agencies. These are the institutions that also operate in the financial system, but unlike banks, they do not deal in clearing and settlement of funds. They do not clear and settle money. Rather, what do? They clear and settle financial securities, right? Now, suppose, I am not interested in making the payment of money to somebody. Let's imagine I am operating in financial market. I have certain securities already in my depository account in the electronic format. Now I am in need of cash. I want to sell them, right? So I find out some buyer in the market through stock exchange and I place an order on the stock exchange and we do a deal. Now question arises, the securities that lie in my account as a seller have to move and go to the account of the buyer. Who will do that job? That job will be done by the clearinghouse in consultation with the depository, right? It is the same as it is done in case of डेबिट कार्ड्स. आपने डेबिट कार्ड्स में देखा होगा, डेबिट कार्ड आपको किसी बैंक ने प्रोवाइड तो किया है, इसका मतलब यह है कि आपके अकाउंट में पैसे हैं, तो आप उन पैसों को डेबिट कार्ड से जो पे कर सकते हो किसी को. लेकिन क्वेश्चन ये अराइज होता है कि आपकी पेमेंट कौन करता है, उसके लिए एक पेमेंट गेटवे होता है. इफ यू लुक एट योर डेबिट कार्ड, यू विल सी either an emblem of either an emblem of वीजा और मास्टर कार्ड. ये वीजा और मास्टर कार्ड जो है ये क्लियरिंग हाउसेस हैं. इनका काम ये है कि आपके बैंक से पैसे डेबिट करके ये दूसरे के बैंक में ट्रांसफर करते हैं, राइट? So you do have a debit card, which is a facility which is being provided to you by some bank. But the moment you want to make a payment, you have to, take help of some, third party, which could be, Visa, which could be Maestro, which could be MasterCard, which could be something else, right? Similarly, in the stock markets, we are not interested, we might not be interested in making the payment of cash. Rather, we may be interested in delivering a financial security, and that financial security may be lying in a depository account, just like in the same manner as we keep our money in a bank account, right? So that time we pass on instructions to the depository through the clearing house to debit our account and credit the account of the buyer to whom we would have sold those securities in the stock market. So this is how the clearing and settlement function is performed by the financial system in the overall financial market. This is how clearing and settlement function is performed by different intermediaries in the financial system, and as a whole financial system facilitates or provides us this kind of service when we are interested in making a payment or buying or selling a financial securities in the market. Then the fourth function is pooling resources and subdividing of shares. ये बहुत सिंपल फंक्शन है, ये पहले ही आपको एक्सप्लेन की गई है. फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम के अंदर जो है रिसोर्सेज, फाइनेंशियल रिसोर्स को पूल किया जा सकता है, ये इंडिविजुअल लेवल पे नहीं हो सकता है. So how does financial system do it, this function, this activity? They do this activity with the help of institutions. Just imagine a mutual fund. What is the job of the mutual fund? Mutual fund actually collects from funds or investments from different small investors, and then after creating a corpus or a large pool, they start making investments in the capital market. Now if somebody has 10 rupees, with 10 rupees he won't be able to make investment in the capital market, but with 10 rupees he would be obviously able to buy a mutual fund unit, right? So mutual fund is actually an intermediary between small investors and the capital market, right? But their job is actually pooling of resources. Similarly, let's take the example of a bank. What does a bank do? A bank collects deposits from different small investors, different small depositors, or a large base of depositors, then pools that money and then finally creates a large loan out of that, which could help a large business to finance or fund its activities, right? So the pooling of resources can only be done by a financial system with the help of those intermediaries that are actually proficient or expert in doing that, right? So the pooling of resources is a very important function which is performed by the which is performed by a financial system, and which ultimately ensures that the funds are used effectively. Then subdividing of shares. Subdividing of shares is opposite to pooling. Now what happens here? A business has a large offer of capital, but if business makes that large offer to one single investor, it won't be possible. Or in other words, we can say it will be very difficult for business to find one single investor who will actually participate in that large offer. Just imagine कि एक business है, उसको 1000 करोड़ रुपए की इक्विटी चाहिए. 1000 करोड़ रुपए की इक्विटी के लिए उसको एक ही इन्वेस्टर मिलना बहुत मुश्किल है. तो वो लोग क्या करते हैं फिर? वो लोग उस इक्विटी ऑफर को छोटे छोटे यूनिट्स में डिवाइड करते हैं. छोटे छोटे यूनिट्स में डिवाइड करने का मतलब छोटे छोटे शेयर्स बनाते हैं इनके, और उन शेयर्स को फिर मार्केट में ऑफर किया जाता है ताकि कोई भी उन्हें खरीद सके. So that is what is called subdividing of shares. Okay. So the fourth important function which is performed by a financial system is pooling of shares and pooling of loans and subdividing of shares. So it is actually pooling of deposits so that large loans can be made, and then subdividing of shares so that a company can facilitate participation into its equity offer to each and everybody or general public in the market. Then the fifth function is providing information. It's very simple. Financial, the formal financial, particularly we are talking about, okay, that provides these essential information or the required information to the stakeholders in the market, which they would need in order to carry out, in order to decide how to invest or when to invest in the financial market, right? This information could be about interest rates or it could be about security prices, right? Similarly, on the same lines, as if we go in a market and the market or the shopkeeper provides us information about prices of the products that he might be offering us for sale. On the same lines, financial market, provides us the prices of securities that are offered there for investment, right? Okay, prices of securities, prices of loans are known as interest rates, but the prices of equity shares, bonds are known as prices, right? Then at last we have dealing with the incentive problem, right? लास्ट पार्ट ऑफ द डिस्कशन, इसके अंदर हम एक सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट फंक्शन जो एक फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम परफॉर्म करता है वो ये है डीलिंग विद इंसेंटिव प्रॉब्लम. नाउ व्हाइल वी invest our money or we carry out different transactions in the financial system or in a financial market, there is always a possibility that two problems can arise. दो problems arise हो सकती हैं financial markets में while different activities are carried out. ये दो problems क्या हैं? ये दो problems हैं, इनमें से नंबर एक प्रॉब्लम है मॉरल हजार्ड, नंबर टू प्रॉब्लम है एडवर्स सिलेक्शन. इस वक्त मेरे पास इतना टाइम नहीं है. आई विल ब्रीफली एक्सप्लेन देम एंड देन मे बी सम अदर टाइम इफ यू आस्क मी आई कैन थ्रो सम मोर लाइट एंड मोर एग्जांपल्स ऑन दीज टू प्रॉब्लम्स. ये प्रॉब्लम्स है क्या? These are known as incentive problems basically, right? These are the principal problems that arise in lending and investment. फाइनेंशियल मार्केट में एसेंशियली होता क्या है? वहां पे लैंडिंग और इन्वेस्टमेंट होती है बाय दोज पीपल हु हैव सरप्लस फंड्स. On the other side, this lending and investment is accepted by the other parties who might be in need of money, right? Borrowers. Okay, now borrowers who take money who sell securities, जो आदमी लोन लेता है फाइनेंशियल मार्केट में या जो आदमी सिक्योरिटी बेचता है फाइनेंशियल मार्केट में, दोनों की पोजीशन एक ही है. दोनों आदमी जो है दूसरे से पैसा उधार लेते हैं, दूसरे से पैसा इकट्ठा करते हैं. ये दोनों आदमी चाहे बोरोवर हो या चाहे एक कंपनी हो विच इज इशूइंग securities to the investors, both of these expose the investors to a problem which is known as two different problems which is known as moral hazard or adverse selection. Now what are these problems? Let's take a look on them in briefly, and then maybe some other time we will discuss them in detail. Moral hazard is the propensity in a borrower or a firm to act detrimental to the interests of the lender or investor in case of a firm, right? So moral hazard is a propensity or tendency in a borrower to act in a manner which is detrimental to the interest of that person who would have provided the funds. Just try to understand it in very simple words. मुझे पैसा चाहिए, मुझे उधार के अंदर पैसा चाहिए. मैं किसी बैंक में जाता हूं और उनसे मैं कहता हूं कि मुझे मकान बनाने के लिए पैसा दे दीजिए, तो मुझे वो एक हाउसिंग लोन सैंक्शन कर लेते हैं और उस हाउसिंग लोन के थ्रू मुझे वो पैसा देते हैं. जब वो पैसा मुझे मिलता है, इंस्टेड ऑफ बाइंग और कंस्ट्रक्टिंग अ हाउस, व्हाट आई एम डूइंग, आई एम स्टार्टिंग अ बिजनेस, another business. I am starting a business of, let us say, selling ready-made garments. This is something which could prove if the business of garments doesn't work well, if it fails, then I am actually exposing my lender to the losses, where from I will make the repayment, where from I will pay him the interest. That would be an important question which will be asked, right? So since I am doing something which is wrong, I am misusing the funds were provided to me for buying or constructing a house, diverting from that, I am using those funds to carry out a business. This is what could actually lead ultimately to the difficulty in favor of the lender who has provided me the loan, right? So moral hazard in simple sense is the tendency in a borrower not to act it's a tendency in a borrower to act in a detrimental way to the interests of the lender, okay, So we act in a we as a borrower act in a way which is not good for the interests of the lender. This is what leads or creates moral hazard, right? Then we have adverse selection. Adverse selection के अंदर क्या होता है? Adverse selection arises in case of lending. So adverse selection hota hai at the hands of the lender. Now, when there is a lending borrowing transaction, lender would always prefer to give his money to a best borrower, or a safe borrower, or a borrower who returns him the money back promptly, in a right manner. But eventually what happens? Despite, conducting a lot of appraisals, lot of evaluations by the lender, he realizes ultimately that he has ended up in giving his loan to a bad borrower and not to a good borrower. दूसरे लफ्जों में ऐसा कहा जाता है कि हमें एक गाड़ी खरीदनी है, सेकंड हैंड गाड़ी, और जब हम मार्केट में गए, हमने एक गाड़ी देखी, वो अच्छी हमें लगी, बाहर से उसका रंग अच्छा था, और हम उसके रंग पे जो है मर गए, तो हमने उस गाड़ी को खरीदा। 2-4 दिन के बाद पता चला ये गाड़ी अच्छी नहीं है, क्योंकि ये अच्छी नहीं चल रही है। हमने इस गरज से लिया था कि गाड़ी अच्छी है, और हमने पैसे भी इसलिए दिए थे, लेकिन इवेंचुअली हुआ क्या, हमें ऐसी गाड़ी मिली जो चल ही नहीं रही मार्केट में। So this is what is called adverse selection. Both the problems arise in the financial system, but financial system has a well-developed mechanism which is meant to deal, or which is meant to protect the stakeholders against all these problems. इन problems के against कैसे मैनेजमेंट की जाती है, कैसे प्रोटेक्ट किया जाता है, उसके ऊपर भी हम डिस्कशन जो है आगे जाके क्लास में करेंगे. So that's all about this basic session on the understanding of the financial system. If there